As soon as the light in the bedroom went out, there was a stirring and a fluttering all through the farm buildings. Word had gone round during the day that old Major, prize boar, had had a strange dream on the previous night, and wished to communicate it to the other animals. It had been agreed that they should all meet in the big barn as soon as Mr. Jones was safely out of the way. Old Major was so highly regarded on the farm that everyone was quite ready to lose an hour's sleep in order to hear what he had to say. At one end of a big long barn, on a sort of raised platform, Major spoke.
Now, comrades, what is the nature of this life of ours? No animal in England is free. The life of an animal is misery and slavery. That is the plain truth. But is this simply part of the order of nature? Is it because this land of ours is so poor that it cannot afford a decent life to those who dwell upon it? No, no, comrades, 1,000 times no. The soil of England is fertile. Its climate is good. It is capable of affording food in abundance to an enormously greater number of animals than now inhabit it. Why, then, do we continue in this miserable condition? Because nearly the whole of the produce of our labor is stolen from us by human beings. There, comrades, is the answer to all of our problems. It is summed up in a single word: man. Is it not crystal clear then, comrades, that all the evils of this life of ours spring from the tyranny of human beings? Only get rid of man, and the produce of our own labor would be our own. And now, comrades, I will tell you about my dream of last night. I cannot describe that dream to you. It was the dream of the earth as it will be when man has vanished.
3 nights later, old Major died peacefully in his sleep. This was in early March. During the next 3 months, there was much secret activity. The work of teaching and organizing the others fell naturally upon the pigs, who were generally recognized as being the cleverest of the animals. Preeminent among the pigs were two young boars named Snowball and Napoleon. Napoleon was a large, rather fierce looking Berkshire boar, the only Berkshire on the farm, not much of a talker, but with a reputation for getting his own way. Snowball was a much more vicious pig than Napoleon, quicker in speech and more inventive, but was not considered to have the same depth of character. There was a small, fat pig named Squealer, with very round cheeks, twinkling eyes, nimble movements, and a shrill voice. He was a brilliant talker, and when he was arguing some difficult point, he had a way of skipping from side to side and whisking his tail, which was somehow very persuasive. The others said of Squealer that he could turn black into white. These three had elaborated old Major's teachings into a complete system of thought, to which they gave the name of animalism. Several nights a week, after Mr. Jones was asleep, they held secret meetings in the barn and expounded the principles of animalism to the others. This continued for the next 3 months. On Midsummer's Eve, which was a Saturday, Mr. Jones went into Wellington and got so drunk at the Red Lion that he did not come back till Monday on Sunday. The men had milked the cows in the early morning and had gone out rabbiting without bothering to feed the animals. When Mr. Jones got back, he immediately went to sleep on the drawing room sofa with the news of the world over his face, so that when the evening came, the animals were still unfed. At last they could stand it no longer. One of the cows broke in the door of the shed with her horn, and all the animals began to help themselves from the bins. It was just then that Mr. Jones woke up. The next moment he and his 4 men were all in the store, turned on him, and threw them all out of the farm. The pigs now revealed that during the past 3 months they had taught themselves to read and write from an old spelling book which had belonged to Mr. Jones's children, and which had been thrown on the rubbish heap. Napoleon sent for black and white paint. They explained that over their studies they had succeeded in reducing the principles of animalism to 7 commandments, which Snowball would now paint on the wall. Afterwards Snowball cried, "To the hayfield! Let us make it a point of honor to get in the harvest more quickly than Jones and his men could do." But at this moment 3 cows, who had seemed uneasy for some time past, set up a loud lowing. They had not been milked for a while, and were almost bursting. After little thought, the pigs sent for buckets and milked the cows fairly successfully. Soon there were 5 buckets of milk. "What is going to happen to all that milk?" said someone. "Never mind the milk, comrades," cried Napoleon, placing himself in front of the buckets. "That will be attended to. The harvest is more important. Comrade Snowball will lead the way. I shall follow in a few minutes. Forward, comrades, the hay is waiting." So the animals trooped down to the hayfield to begin the harvest, and when they came back in the evening, it was noticed that the milk had disappeared. All through that summer, the work of the farm went like clockwork. All through that summer, the work of the farm went like clockwork. The animals were as happy as they had ever conceived it possible to be. Every mouthful of food was an acute positive pleasure, now that it was truly their own food, produced by themselves and for themselves, not doled out to them by a grudging master. With the worthless, parasitical human beings gone, there was more for everyone to eat, and there was more leisure too. Snowball began drawing plans for a windmill, which would provide electricity and thereby give the animals more leisure time. But Napoleon opposes such a plan on the grounds that building the windmill will allow them less time for producing food. On the Sunday that the pigs offer the windmill to the animals for a vote, Napoleon summoned a pack of ferocious dogs, who chased Snowball off the farm forever. Napoleon announces that there will be no further debates. He also tells them that the windmill will be built after all, and that it was his own idea, stolen by Snowball. The animals lived on in this drudgery for years. Benjamin, one of the few non-pigs who could read, who for years had resigned against doing so, at last consented to break his rule. He read out what was written on the wall. There was nothing there now except a single commandment. It ran, "All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others." Animals then heard in the house the pigs discussing with the men of other farms. 12 voices were shouting in anger, and they were all alike. No question now what had happened to the faces of the pigs. The creatures outside looked from pig to man, and from man to pig, and from pig to man again, but already it was impossible to say which was which.